Daniel, if I'm Andrew Kavanagh, do I think that I've got a decision to make in terms of Danny Rohl right now? Having looked at the way the season has ended, um, there are all these, or there might be nagging doubts about the lack of experience, which has perhaps contributed to the defeats at this critical point in the season against managers that are, not as wet round the ears. It, what I'm floating here is the idea that this might be an elegant solution for all parties. If Rangers think they might be able to get better than Danny Roll, then what a great way to kind of bring everything to a conclusion. They get a fee from Wolfsburg for a start because Danny Roll's under contract, so there's no payout this time. It's money coming in the way. And if you've got your eye on somebody else, or if you think somebody else might be able to do this job better, or if you've got doubts that Danny Roll is the guy for next season and beyond, that'd be a real clever, neat fix. Also, if you're Danny Roll and you suspect that you might be coming under pressure here, unduly, he might feel, because he, as much as I've expressed some what I would call concerns about him, there's no doubt there are mitigating factors, and there's also the bottom line that he's brought Rangers from a bottom six position when he took over from Russell Martin into a title race all the way into this late stage in the season. So he's done good work. But that's another thing that Wolfsburg might be looking at and say, we told you this guy was decent. He's done a good job there. Solid. I don't think it's any better than solid, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's solid. And that might be a big tick in the box for Wolfsburg, and it might be a big tick in the box for Danny Roll if he thinks he might come under pressure. Wow, he's got a shot at a club which, for the time being at least, is Bundesliga, and will certainly have ambitions of getting back into the Bundesliga, even if they did go down. And Danny Roll, about a year ago, when he was still at Sheffield Wednesday and things were unclear, I think he gave an interview in which he talked about that being his priority number one. He wanted to get into the Bundesliga. That had always been his burning ambition. So if this thing was to come together, if Wolfsburg were to go to Rangers, if Wolfsburg were to offer money for him, if Rangers were satisfied that they think, there might be a better option for them, it just might all come together. I think it's one that's really worth keeping an eye on. I have to tell you, the word from Germany is he's one of about 5 or 6 names. I don't think he's the preferred option at this point. But given that there was a lot of interest in him from Wolfsburg this time last summer, you would think he'd be quite high up that shortlist. So yeah, I think that's one to keep an eye on. I don't know about you, Scott.
Hi, I mean, look, there's a lot of ifs and buts in there, but it is interesting. As Jacko's touched on there, the fact that it's Germany is obviously key. I know, and most people will know, Danny Rohl's family aren't in Scotland with him. He very rarely gets to see his wife and kids, so would going back to Germany suit him and his family more than Glasgow? Probably. I think a lot will depend if Wolfsburg stay in the Bundesliga or whether they go down. That might be a factor. And as Jacko says, probably the key thing in all of this is whether the Rangers owners are having doubts. There's nothing at the moment that would suggest that they are having doubts. I mean, we can talk about Danny Rohl and his performance as Rangers manager and where they are, and his good points and bad points. But in terms of the club, actually, having full faith in him, I don't see any kind of reason to doubt that at the moment. But if, as Jacko said, if Wolfsburg come calling and ask the question, then Rangers and Danny Rohl's going to have a big decision to make. So, as you say, I mean, it is interesting. It's one certainly worth watching, and it's obviously came about. It's reared its head at a time when Danny Rohl is beginning to feel the heat at Rangers.
I think, Scott, if you're Andrew Kavanagh and you were at Tynecastle the other night on Monday, you walk away, and even if you didn't have doubts before that game, despite the performance against Motherwell, even if you didn't have doubts, if you're still pretty secure in your own mind that Danny Rohl was the man that you wanted to take it forward, I can't help but think if you're Andrew Kavanagh sitting watching what happened at Tynecastle the other night, where I think he was quite clearly outmanoeuvred on the touchline, that would have been enough to give me reservations. And I say that as someone that before that game, Daniel, I said it a couple of times on here, as far as I was concerned, Danny Rohl was very heavily still supported by the Rangers boardroom, by Andrew Kavanagh. I think they have a good working relationship. But the evidence of his own eyes at Tynecastle would have given him some reason, I think, to reconsider. And all of a sudden, along comes Wolfsburg. And it might offer you the opportunity to maybe make a change that you might have been thinking a lot about since Monday night. But this time, the opportunity to do it by making a profit rather than paying out another huge severance package, which has been the Rangers' way. Remember, they had the same opportunity with Clement, didn't they,
Yeah,
Scott?
Clement,
Who was it wanted Clement, and there was the opportunity.
Was it not Belgium? The Belgium national job?
I think it was the Belgian national job. Yeah, it was. You're right.
Yeah.
And at that point, it looked as if Rangers could make a few quid, but that fell by the wayside. I think Rangers weren't entertaining it. And then look what happened. So I don't know.
Certainly, Jacko, I mean, you're right. Monday night is obviously huge in the circumstances, and that might have changed Andrew Kavanagh's mind enough. I don't know, but certainly in the kind of small dealings we've had with Andrew Kavanagh this season, it's clear that he really likes Danny Rohl, and he's got a lot of trust in him, a lot of confidence in him. I think they believe, at 37, he's one of, they'll think he's one of Europe's top young coaches. And I know initially that the work that Rohl did, when he first came in, just getting Rangers winning again, getting them moving back up the table, getting back involved at the top again. They were obviously really impressed with that initial impact. That's why they went and backed him in January with 10 million quid's worth of talent. And it was talent that guys that Danny Rohl wanted. These guys that were brought in, you look at their profile in terms of their age and their development, the type of players that Andrew Kavanagh and co would be looking at and think Danny Rohl's the man to develop them and ultimately make them better, make them more valuable. And that's obviously beneficial to the club. So certainly before the last couple of weeks, there was real confidence in the board in Danny Rohl. And I tend to, my gut feeling is that that will pretty much still be intact. I think that obviously there will be doubts creeping in because of what's happened in the last couple of weeks. But if you're asking me again, which you have previously, Daniel, I still think, unless like an offer like Wolfsburg or someone else came in for Danny Rohl, I still fully expect him to be Rangers manager at the start of next season.
If Wolfsburg were to make an offer, though, it allows everyone to sort of extricate themselves from a difficult situation. Nobody loses face.
Exactly.